Welcome everyone, it's Laura Jacques-Gilmour here with your weekly collective card pull with the Remembering You Oracle deck. This reading is for the energy of July 7th to July 13th, so just take what lands and leave the rest. This deck is one I created to help you reconnect with your inner knowing, and it came through my own process of remembering who I was underneath all the roles, patterns, expectations, and old stories I had been carrying. So when I use these cards, I'm not using them to tell you what to do or using them to predict your future. And I'm definitely not using them to replace your intuition. For me, the cards are more like a mirror. They give you language to what your body, heart, and your own inner knowing may already be trying to show you. So before I share this week's reading, I want to share the process I use in my own daily practice. Before I pull the cards, I like to ground first and then ask the questions. I listen for what I sense, and I usually write that down first. Then I pull the cards and see what they confirm, deepen, or bring into clearer focus. Because the whole point is not to give your power away to the cards. The point is to practice trusting ourselves again. So before we begin, just take a breath with me. Let your shoulders drop. Let your body arrive. You don't have to figure anything out right now. Just notice what you notice. The three questions I asked for this week were, what are we being invited to notice within ourselves? What are we ready to release, soften, or stop carrying? And the third question is, what part of ourselves are we being invited to remember or reclaim? When I sat with that first question, the words that came through were patience and understanding. Then I pulled the card joy. And honestly, I love that combination because sometimes we think joy should be easy. Like if something good is right in front of us, we should just be able to feel it. But that isn't always how it works. Sometimes our nervous system is still bracing. Sometimes we're so used to being responsible or prepared or waiting for that next thing to go wrong that joy almost feels unfamiliar. So this feels like a really gentle invitation this week to notice where joy is trying to come in, but where we may not be fully letting ourselves receive it. Not huge joy or the kind where everything has to be perfect, just simple joy. It could be the song that shifts your mood, the walk outside, noticing the color of the sky, or that little creative spark that you might have, or perhaps just that unexpected laugh. That quiet moment where something in you softens and you remember, oh, right, I'm still allowed to feel good. So the question here is, what brings genuine joy to my heart? And even more simply, what would bring me one moment of joy today? Not after the work is done or after everything is fixed. The second question was, what are we ready to release, soften, or stop carrying? The words I received were shame and guilt. And then I pulled the card forgiveness. That one felt very direct because shame and guilt are heavy. They don't just sit in the mind. They sit in the body and it shapes how we see ourselves. It makes us replay the old moments and keep us stuck in versions that we have already outgrown. And I want to be really clear with this card. Forgiveness does not mean pretending something didn't hurt. It doesn't mean excusing what happened or rushing to heal so everyone else feels more comfortable. Sometimes forgiveness is much quieter than that and sounds more like, I don't want to keep carrying this the same way anymore, or keep punishing myself. I don't want this old pain to keep deciding how much peace I'm allowed to feel. And for some of us, this may not even be about forgiving another person. It may be about softening towards ourselves for what we didn't know then, or what we tolerated and then blamed ourselves for the way we survived while being the version of us who was doing the best we could with what we had. So the question with this card is, what am I ready to forgive in order to reclaim my peace? But I would soften that even more for this week. Place your hand on your heart and ask, what am I ready to soften around? You don't have to force forgiveness or make yourself feel something you don't feel. Just create a little more space around the pain. That may be enough. The third question was, what part of ourselves are we being invited to reclaim or remember? What came through was inner knowing and intuition. And the card came through was integration. And that really brought the whole reading together for me, because so often we do know. We have the insight, feel the truth in our body, maybe even have that moment of clarity. But then life keeps moving. We get busy, second guess it, and even talk ourselves out of it. Or we have the realization, but we don't actually give ourselves time to think differently from it. Integration is the part where the wisdom becomes real in your everyday life. It's not the big dramatic breakthrough moment. It's what happens after, with how you speak to yourself. It's when you say yes to, what you stop carrying, the pause before you override yourself again. It's a small choice that says, no, I actually do know what I know. So when I look at these three cards together, joy, forgiveness, and integration, the message feels like, let joy back in, even in small ways. Let shame and guilt loosen their grip, and let what you already know become part of how you live this week. This doesn't feel like a week of pushing or a week where we need to force big transformation. It feels more like a week of letting ourselves receive what is already here. A little more joy, softness, and trust in what we already know. So your reflection for the week is, where am I making joy wait until everything is perfect? What shame or guilt am I ready to soften around? And what truth am I ready to actually live from now? For integration, keep it simple. Choose one small way to live from your inner knowing this week. Not 10 things, not a whole life reset, one small thing. Maybe you rest when your body asks for rest, or say no without writing a whole emotional essay to explain yourself. Or maybe you let yourself create, take the walk, play the music. You may even stop and put your hand on your heart before you react. Or maybe you trust the quiet nudge instead of talking yourself out of it. That's the practice. Not giving your power away to the cards, or waiting for something outside of you to tell you who you are. Just letting the cards reflect what some part of you already knows. So for this week, let this be the reminder. You are allowed to receive joy before everything is perfect. You are allowed to stop carrying shame as if it was yours to keep. And you are allowed to let your inner knowing become part of how you live. If this reading supported you, make sure you subscribe because I'll be doing these each week. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, they may need to hear this message too. If you're curious about the Remembering You Oracle deck, comment cards and I'll send you the launch list link.